February 7th, 1997, a man hiding in the shadows would emerge and hold the victim at knife point, forcing him back into his vehicle. The pair would drive silently to a secluded area in Gwinnett County, Georgia. There, the victim, Douglas Gissendaner, was hit with a nightstick and stabbed numerous times in cold blood. I can only imagine the fear and confusion he had as to why this was happening to him. On this episode of Chasing Killers, we'll be exploring the life and death of Kelly Gissendaner. Let's get into it. Kelly Gissendaner was born Kelly Renee Brookshire on March 8, 1968 in Lawrenceville, Georgia. Lawrenceville is a city just northeast of Atlanta and is considered one of its suburbs. Early on, many of the men in her life would abuse her. It started at just 10 years old by her stepfather, and at 12 years old, her grandfather was also in on the abuse. At 15, her uncle would add to her trauma-filled early life. In high school, she would attend a party and be assaulted by a man after a night of heavy drinking and drugs. 9 months after the incident, she would give birth to her first child, a son. The relationships with men throughout her life would never be stable. At the age of 19, she would marry her first husband. It would only last 6 months before falling apart. Following her divorce, she would meet her next husband and victim, in this case, Doug. They would be married on September 2nd, 1989, and she was on to her second marriage at only 21 years old. Doug was 2 years older than her. Things would get worse for the couple. Kelly would have another child and they would both lose their jobs. They would now be broke with 2 kids living with her mother. Doug joined the army and was shipped off to Germany. Kelly would have an affair and a child with an illicit lover. She again would be divorced in 1993. The couple wasn't done though, and they would rekindle their romance. They wanted to work things out and were remarried in May 1995, but it wouldn't be long until the relationship was on the rocks. Only 6 months later, in September 1995, they were separated. During this time, Kelly met Gregory Bruce Owen and started a relationship with him. This would lead us to that dreadful night. Gary was convinced by Kelly to kill her husband. Doug was a man, by all accounts, that was a faithful husband and a loving father. The man hiding in the shadows for Doug was the new boyfriend of Kelly, Greg. Greg would kill Doug, as described earlier, and Kelly would appear in the woods at the end of the crime. After Doug was killed, he was left in the woods to rot. The new couple would set fire to Doug's vehicle and walk away like nothing happened. The following morning, a missing persons report would be filed by Kelly. It wouldn't be long until police were on her tail. Police would locate Doug's scorched car the following morning, but there was no sign of him. Kelly would even appear on local television as a hopeful wife. They would find Doug 12 days after his disappearance. Kelly would initially deny that they ever had an issue in their marriage, but after friends and family told police otherwise, Kelly would admit that they had their issues. At the funeral for Doug, investigators would attend in an undercover capacity. Kelly would be over an hour late to her dead husband's service. Greg's alibi would crack when under pressure from police and admit that he lied about Greg being home all night. When confronted with this information, initially Greg refused to talk. A plea deal was struck, taking the death penalty off the table with a life sentence being offered. Greg would take the deal and tell everything, implicating Kelly as the mastermind. February 25th, 1997. Kelly would be arrested for the murder of her husband. She would claim Greg did it on his own without her knowledge. The trial would begin in November 1998. The jury would only take 2 hours to return their verdict, guilty. It was on to the penalty phase. After debating her sentence, again for only 2 hours, she received the death penalty. Kelly would be sent to death row for women at Metro State Prison. While in prison, Kelly would convert to Christianity. She would counsel other inmates and even received a theological degree from Emory University. In 2011, Metro State Prison closed, and she would be transferred to Arundel State Prison. She would exhaust all her appeals. Her execution would be delayed several times. In Georgia, the governor does not have the power of clemency, only the parole board does. They would deny her clemency. A flurry of last-minute appeals, including one from the Pope, would not spare her life. September 30th, 2015. This would be her last day on planet Earth. Her last meal would consist of 2 cheeseburgers, 2 large orders of French fries, lemonade, cherry vanilla ice cream, popcorn, cornbread, and a salad. Quite a feast. Kelly would walk into the death chamber at Georgia Diagnostic and Classification State Prison. When offered her chance at any last words, she would sing Amazing Grace and state, "That amazing man lost his life because of me, and if I could take it back, if this would change it, I would have done it a long time ago. But it's not, and I just hope they can find peace, and I hope they find some happiness. God bless you." She would receive the lethal injection and be pronounced dead at 12:21 a.m. This was a Death Row profile of Kelly Gissendaner. Thanks for watching. See you next time.